Today I'm going to be teaching you on how to play the game of chess. I'm going to teach you how to set up the board, I'm going to teach you how each piece moves, and I'm also going to teach you some of the basic rules of the game itself. I would like to start though with a brief history on the game. According to the American United States Chess Federation, the game of chess started as a two-player Indian war game. This game was called Chaturang in the early 600 AD. During the 15th century, though, the rules of the games began to change. The bishop and the queen used to be very weak in the game. They gave them more power so to speed up a once very slow game. Thanks to Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, the game of chess began to gain popularity in America. People like Paul Morphy, who was born in 1837 in New Orleans, is praised as one of the first American chess legends. This was after winning in the 1857 American Chess Congress. He was invited to play overseas to face against England's, France, and Germany's best players. He dominated Adolfo Anderssen, who was considered Europe's leading player. This is just a brief history of the game of chess. Now let's focus on the game itself. In front of you, you have your own chessboard and the pieces that go along with it. I've also provided this cheat sheet in case you have any questions or need to look back on some of the statements I've stated about. Let us start with how each piece moves. I would like to start with the rook. The rook is the most straightforward piece in your arsenal. The rook moves only vertically or horizontally. The rook can move as many places as it wants as long as there's nothing in its path. Next we have the knight. The knight is the trickiest piece for most people to learn. The knight is allowed to move 2 spaces one direction and 1 space in another. This means that the knight makes an L shape. It can make this shape in any direction as long as it always moves 2 spaces one way and 1 space another. The knight also has the ability to perform a jump. This gives the knight the ability to jump over any piece and perform its basic move. Then we go to the bishop. The bishop only moves diagonally. The bishop can move as many places as it wants as long as there's nothing blocking its path. The bishop is also the only piece that stays on the color that it started on. That means that you'll have one bishop that's always on a white square and one bishop that's always on a black one. Next we move to the queen. As stated earlier, the queen used to be one of the more weaker pieces in your arsenal. Now she is the strongest. She has the capability of moving vertically, horizontally, and diagonally. She can move as many spaces as long as there's nothing blocking her path. Lastly, we have the king. The king, though might be the weakest in its movement, is the most important piece in the fact that if you lose your king, then you have lost the game. The king can only move 1 space, but it can move in any direction. Then there's the pawn. The pawn is also one of the trickier pieces to learn. Before the pawn ever moves, you have to make this decision of whether if you want to move it 1 space or if you want to move it 2 spaces. The 2-space move is called the morning cut, and you only get that option the very first time you move it. If you move the pawn 1 space, then you lose the option to perform the morning cut. The pawn is also the only piece that does not move backwards. It can only move forward. The pawn is also the only piece that does not capture in the same way that it moves. This means that the pawn only captures diagonally. This is unlike something like the rook, who captures in its way that it moves, in the fact that it can capture this pawn moving vertically or horizontally, or capture this pawn moving vertically. Those are the components that make up the game of chess. Now that we have named them all and have spoken of how they move, I would like to start an activity with you. During this activity, I want you to be blindfolded, and I'm going to set a piece in front of you. You will pick up that piece and tell me the name and how it moves. So let's put our blindfolds on, please. All right, so the piece in your hand, please tell me the name of it. That's right, that is the rook. And how does it move? Correct again, the rook does move only vertically or horizontally. Please tell me the next piece that's in your hand. Correct, that is a knight. Now how does the knight move? Correct, the knight is allowed to move 2 spaces one direction, but has to move 1 space in another. What is the special move that the knight can perform? Correct, the knight can jump over pieces. Alright, what is that next piece that is in your hand? Correct, that is the queen. And what is special about the queen? Correct, the queen can move in any direction, any number of spaces that she wants. Alright, one last piece. Tell me what's in your hand. Correct, that is a pawn. Tell me what's special about the pawn. Correct, the pawn can move either 1 space forward or move 2 spaces forward. What is the name of that? What is the name of the move called again? Correct, yes, morning cut. You may take off your blindfolds now. Now that we know how the pieces move and the names of them, let's actually set up part of our board. The easiest way is to start from the outside in. So we're going to start with our rooks. The rooks go on the far corners of your last row or rank. Followed next to the rooks are the knights. After the knights come the bishops. And then we come to the queen. Now, the placement of the queen depends on the color that you choose to play as. The queen represents the color that it is, meaning the queen goes on the white square. Finally, we have the king. The king, of course, takes its place next to his queen. Lastly, we have the pawns. The pawns go in front of all the pieces placed on the last rank. They therefore go on the second rank of the board. Here we have a chess set that is set up correctly. Now let's go on to some of the special moves that you might encounter and want to know so that you can better have a better strategy in place. The pawn is the only piece that only moves forward, that is not allowed to move backwards. So what happens, let's say, if the pawn makes it all the way to your opponent's last rank? This is called promoting. The pawn can be sacrificed to be promoted to any piece that's been eliminated or captured beforehand, say the queen. This move is also called queening because most people decide to choose their queen if they're ever allowed the chance to promote their pawn. Next, let's talk about in passante. In passante is French for in passing. Let's say your pawn makes it down to the 5th rank, and your opponent chooses to do his morning cut to avoid being captured by you. If this is performed, you are allowed to capture his pawn as if he didn't take the morning cut and avoid being captured by you. This is in passante. The last special move I would like to talk to you about is called rooking. There are 5 rules to rooking. The first one is that your king has not moved. The second one is that the rook that you chose to perform the rooking move has not moved. The third rule is that you cannot rook when you are in check. The fourth rule is that you cannot rook yourself into check. So rooking involves moving two pieces at once. This is the only time in chess that you're allowed to move two pieces at the same time. To perform the rooking move, you move your king 2 spaces towards your rook, and the rook takes 1 space to the right or the left of your king, depending on which rook you decide to go with. This is rooking. Now those are some of the more complicated terms in the game of chess. But how do you start off the game? To figure out who gets to move first is as easy as deciding who is going to be on the white team. The opponent that decides to be on the white side is the person that gets to move first. They start off with their opening move, which then means that its opponent comes out with their move. You will take turns and alternate moves until one of you has gotten the opponent's king into check. Check means that the king cannot move, or is in danger of not being able to move. If the king is in check, he can find himself out of it by moving himself or positioning another piece in front of it. The ultimate goal of this game is to get the king into checkmate. If you have been able to do this, then you have won the game. Now that we know some of the basic rules of the game, let us play and see where we are in our knowledge of the game today. I will let you all play and come around and make sure that you are understanding the basic concepts. I will only help you if needed. So let's take a moment and see where we are.
Okay.
Alright, so the opponent that's white goes first and starts with their opening move.
Okay. So anyone I want, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I can go 2 spaces for the first move if I want to, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going 2.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
No, you can't do that.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't do that. The pawn
I want to go forward too.
The pawn can only take diagonally.
Bye-bye, horsey. Okay, you can have my pawn. Okay. Yeah, move that out there. I want to move you, I think. Where to?